High City Church, it's good to be able to speak to you virtually again, 11 or whatever weeks in. And since my last Sunday video, the hair's a little bit longer, a little bit grayer, probably, if truth be told. The smart jeans have been turned into tracky bees, but I have shaved specially today to spare you any young offender moustache. But for those who have had children going back to school this week, I hope you found it a positive experience. Maybe for others, you might have had a glimmer of normality with socially distanced chats, but recognizing these are challenging times, I hope that above all that you're finding something of God's joy and strength in the midst of these times. Following the initial shock to the system of lockdown, we're definitely in a new normal, I think, of no necessarily immediate return to meeting all together on the horizon. So leaders, we want to help with establish this sense of steady rhythm with these Sunday videos, taking our cues and pace a little bit more from patterns of some set scriptures as like the truest reality that defines our life's narratives, recognizing that not everything revolves around COVID, but also trusting that in God's divine providence, that his forever word will speak directly in a timely way into our here and now. So until the end of August, we're going to be drawing from the Church of England lectionary, joining with lots of other churches around the world in this common pattern, which generally has an Old Testament reading, a psalm, a gospel reading, and another New Testament passage each week. Now, we won't necessarily use all these passages each week unless you really, really want 3-hour videos, but we'll seek to discern God's leading in drawing attention to what he might be wanting to speak to us and do in us through those scriptures each week for the building up of the body and our sustenance as we're dispersed in this time and we seek to be salt and light where we find ourselves. Now, from this week's passages, I've been particularly drawn to Isaiah 40 and the themes it brings out of a God who is above all human knowing or reckoning, and a God who does not grow weary. The context of this passage is speaking comfort to the people in exile, of occupation of God's people. It has promises of the Lord acting to bring deliverance and put right the current situation, with overtones of a promised Messiah. And it's in fact interpreted by some of the gospel writers later to relate to John the Baptist, and therefore speaks of Jesus, speaks of the Lord ending warfare, coming with might, tending his flock like a shepherd, gathering the lambs in his arms and carrying them in his bosom, and the glory of the Lord being revealed. As with most passages in the Bible, we should avoid the temptation to directly read this as a message directly to speaking to me here in 21st century York awaiting release from lockdown, because that's not what it is. But off the back of this kind of prophecy is an extended reflection of God, which almost reads like a resume, like someone's just asked God in an interview, well, God, the situation's looking pretty bleak. What really makes you think like you can do this job? And it's that I want to bring our attention to today. So why don't you pause this video and grab a Bible and read along with me from verse 12. That's Isaiah 40 from verse 12. And since posing with Bibles seems to be in vogue, here's my one, very nice illuminated Bible that I got for my birthday. But as we know, the Bible is a pretty dangerous prop, isn't it? It stands over us rather than being subject to us. So let's humbly allow God's word to disarm us once again. So reading from verse 12. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand and marked off the heavens with a span, enclosed the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance? Who has measured the spirit of the Lord, or what man can show him his counsel? Whom did he consult, and who made him understand? Who taught him the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and showed him the way of understanding? Behold, The nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are counted as the dust on the scales. Behold, he takes up the coastlands like fine dust. Lebanon would not suffice for fuel, nor are its beasts enough for burnt offering. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are counted by him as less than nothing and emptiness. To whom then will you liken God? Or what likeness compare with him? An idol? A craftsman casts it, and a goldsmith overlays it with gold and casts for it silver change. He who is too impoverished for an offering chooses wood that will not rot. He seeks out a skilled craftsman to set up an idol that will not move. Do you not know? Do you not hear? Has it not been told from the beginnings? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them like a tent to dwell in, who brings princes to nothing and makes the rulers of the earth as emptiness. Scarcely are they planted, scarcely sown, scarcely has their stem taken root in the earth, when he blows on them, and they wither, and the tempest carries them off like stubble. To whom then will you compare me, that I should be like him, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and see, who created these? He who brings out their host by number, calling them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and because he is strong in power, not one is missing. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my God. Have you not heard? Have you not known? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. There's a few groups that these reflections about God's ability to do what he says feel like they address. It speaks to the proud, the know-it-all, the powerful, the quick to explain the answer to injustice or absurdity, the pure rationalist, the cynic, and says, have you marked off the heavens with the span of your hands? He brings princes to nothing and makes the rulers of the earth as emptiness. Or did you give advice to the Spirit of God and teach him justice? Be wary of pithy statements and certitudes when grappling with the Almighty and his purposes. The Bible more often than not presents God as other and unsearchable than one who can be mastered like a textbook. When speaking with those who aren't believers particularly, we should expect these bigger questions to pop up, but be confident, friends. We're not called to necessarily be some sort of encyclopedia that has nice, neat packaged answers, but to be those who trust and point to the one who is eternally wise and just and good. He is more than able. His power is more than sufficient to achieve what he has promised. It would seem like the more often reaction, though, from God's people is something like what's hinted in the passage. My way is hidden from the Lord. My right is disregarded by my God. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't seem right. Why, God? There's a lot, isn't there, that might provoke this sort of response at the moment, from a global pandemic causing chaos the world over, to the death of George Floyd tragically surfacing the horrible systemic and widespread injustice that Black people face within our communities, within our churches even, to grieving the sudden loss of loved ones, to our own experiences in lockdown even. Why does no one seem to care about me? Can't you see the impact this is having on my child? Why are you not acting, God? In these times, church, don't numb or avoid the issue. Don't even place your trust in seeking to rationalize and make sense of it all necessarily, because you won't always be able to. Ultimate peace does not lie there, but throw yourself onto the Lord, the everlasting God. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He is the one who calls out the stars, and because he is strong in power, not one is missing. I love that. He's not overlooked things or missed one. He sees. He's not outfoxed. He's not too weak to act. He's trustworthy to bring about deliverance and justice in his way, and to do so ultimately when his glory is fully revealed. This doesn't mean we cease to mourn injustice and grapple with it, or that we absolve responsibility. Far from it. The opposite, in fact. Going to God gives us the proper space to mourn, to repent, to align our hearts and lives with God's way, and to know a hope that goes beyond present circumstance. And finally, as the Bible reads us, it narrates me, and perhaps you too, correctly, as the young man just about, or woman who is weary. 3 months of lockdown has proved tiring. Obviously not helped by broken sleep from a newborn and a restless 4-year-old, but nevertheless, it's strange that it feels almost like a rubbish thing for a Christian leader to say, like sort of falling at the first Justin Whitmell Early or John Mark Cromer hurdle. It's not even a sexy Christian word like humbled or weak, but tired is probably a more apt description of my lockdown experience, and I've grappled with it. Is it a sign of bad habits or choices? Possibly. Have I responded poorly at times? Almost certainly. But yet, as I've contemplated also, finding in that place an abundance of grace and God's carrying and peace, and therefore paradoxically rest and strength. For the strength in this passage doesn't come to those who the Lord has equipped with different circumstances or even super endurability in the present, but for those who wait on him. In this context, for the deliverance from exile and ultimate messianic hope. For us, the other side of Jesus' coming is even greater, as we've received the fulfillment of part of that waiting. And we're now those who've been gathered up like lambs in the shepherd's arms, carried in his bosom. Or as the letter to the Colossians puts it, our life is hid with Christ in God. Our hope and salvation isn't based in our fortitude or performance. And we wait for the Lord's return, for the ultimate rallying cry that the warfare has entered. Inequality is pardoned. And when Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. Even youths shall faint and be weary, but they who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. May the Lord, the everlasting God, renew your strength, your faith in him this week. And amidst all the messiness of life, the troubles, the horrible injustices we see, may you know God's comfort and his hope. Until next time, City Church. See you.